How you guys doing? Welcome aboard the next video. Today we're going to be doing some more pickups that I found over the months and years. And this time around we're going to be talking about some games that you definitely should be adding to your collection. We're going to be mostly doing PlayStation 1 games here and one original Xbox. So let's go ahead and start off this list with Cool Borders 3. This is one of the very first games that I ever got on the PlayStation 1. This game usually goes for about $5. Cool Borders 3 was another game that I got in the late 90s for a Christmas present, I think in like 97 or something like that. And it was probably one of the coolest games I ever got on the PlayStation. Now back in this time period, extreme sports was a big thing. Skateboarding, video games, and of course snowboarding. Now the great thing about it was, you know, since it was so popular during this time period, there was plenty of people who didn't live in areas where you could strap a snowboard to your feet and do this kind of stuff. So this game really allowed you to experience that kind of stuff, you know, in a video game format. Now, of course, in this game, you're able to pick between 5 different mountains, different track settings. There's different gameplay available. There's different boards you can pick from. There's different players you can pick from, all of which have different stats. Now, one of the really cool concepts of this game is that the tricks in this were actually really fun to try and pull off. And it would make you really nervous that you might accidentally wipe out trying to land a trick, especially when you're putting combos together in mid-air. It really upped the ante that you could possibly wipe out. This is one of those really cool games that really good concepts that they had back in the day, and it had really good stellar music in it. Now this is one of those games that you can go back and revisit over and over again, and if nobody's really heard of the Cool Borders series, odds are you probably have, but if you haven't, this is definitely a good one to get. Up next, the original Xbox game that we have is Dead to Rights. I never really got to play this game, and I always was very curious about it, but this copy in particular usually goes for about $4. I was lucky enough to find it for $3. Dead to Rights is probably one of those overlooked games. I mean, it's actually a really good game, but not many people really give it the time of day. I mean, it does have a compelling storyline, if you can call it that, but, you know, in my opinion, it's actually not that bad. I mean, it's definitely not for kids. You definitely don't want your kids playing this game, but it was actually a pretty good game. The locking system was actually pretty good. You can actually kill enemies pretty easily in this game. Even if you couldn't see them through walls, you still managed to lock onto them. Now, I have to say, the intro is probably like just so awesome, but you know, it is worth playing and it is worth coming back to every now and again. It's not a bad game, and I actually enjoy this. And one of the things about this game is your canine unit. Your canine unit is just absolutely phenomenal. I'm not going to go ahead and talk too much about the storyline, but I'm not going to spend too much time on this game because we do have a few other games that we're going to be getting to. But I just really wanted to put this game on the list because it does bring a lot to the table, and it kind of jump-started the idea of bullet time. Now the next game on the list will be GTA 2. Now the funny thing about this is, if you'll notice on this label, it says Gran Turismo 2 2-disc for $2.95. So obviously I got a game for $2.95 that's usually worth $7. So I lucked out on that one. They said, you know, you buy 2 games, you get the third one free if they're a certain price and below. So I actually got this one for free. Now obviously, for those that don't know, GTA originally started from an over-the-sky view. Now this was the first GTA I ever played, was GTA 2. I have played GTA 1 before, And I gotta tell you guys, the controls in this game are rather difficult, but I think that's what made it so much fun, was that it was a challenge, and you didn't really have to beat the game to have fun. You could just go around doing stuff that you normally wouldn't do in other games. It was one of the first free roam games where you could go around running over people, shooting people, blowing things up. It was really cool. It was a great concept for its time, and was very evolutionary. The next game we have on the list is Final Fantasy VII. I was actually pretty lucky with this find. I actually got this for about $10. These typically can go for anywhere between $18 and $20, especially in the condition that this thing is in. It's an excellent condition. I cannot believe how well taken care of this is. The discs, every single disc in here does not have a single scratch. It's awesome. You even have the original manual and everything, and it's just in such a great condition. Now, of course, who doesn't know the most popular Final Fantasy game ever made, and that is Final Fantasy VII. Some people will argue Final Fantasy VI is better, but those people are freaking crazy. Final Fantasy VII is the best Final Fantasy game that ever was, or ever has been. And with the remake still having not been announced yet, and we're all guessing it will be next year in 2018, we still don't know. At least we know there's a remake happening, and we have trailers for it with in-game play footage, and it looks amazing. Anyways, Final Fantasy VII, probably one of the greatest games of all time, including myths surrounding this one, and was just so amazing and such great things going on with it. One of the most iconic games of all time. I will be doing a history video on the entire Final Fantasy, and some of the things that I've already found out going into the research of doing this. It's just incredible how this whole thing got started. Final Fantasy nearly never happened, and that's what I'm going to really go into and talk about in a future video, is the history of Final Fantasy, how it all started, all the way up to where it is today, talking about each and every single Final Fantasy there's ever been, including the handhelds like Final Fantasy Tactics. Anyways, Final Fantasy VII, one of the greatest games of all time, probably the greatest JRPG, that is freaking hard to say, JRPG, Japanese role-playing game ever made. Now the next games that we're going to talk about are the Twisted Metal Series 1, 2, and 3. I am missing Small Brawls. That is another one on the PlayStation that they came out with. Now the first Twisted Metal usually goes for about $18. The second Twisted Metal usually goes for about $15. And the third one usually goes for about $12. Now something that I want to point out with this first one before we get this thing underway is when I was checking this out before I was going to do this video, I noticed something on the very back that actually really increased the nostalgia on this game. If you look at the back, there is actually a cutout from a magazine that has the cheat codes for Twisted Metal. And back in this time period, you either got cheat codes from a magazine or from word of mouth. So the fact that whoever owned this game put this back here, that's ingenious. That is awesome. I could not believe I saw this. Now I could talk all day long about Twisted Metal, and the first one was really a really good threshold in the vehicular combat in gaming, which was really amazing. But out of all three of them, the one that we should talk about that was the best out of the three is the second one. The second one was probably the best one because they took everything from the first game and tweaked it up a little bit to really try and perfect what they were doing with this game franchise. Now the reason why the third one isn't so good is because it wasn't really developed by the same team as the first two. In the second one, you can actually unlock Minion, which is the boss in the first Twisted Metal game. With a few other cheat codes, you can also unlock others as well. And each vehicle has special abilities. Like there's one that has a Cyclone ability. I think one of my favorite ones is probably Axel, the guy with two wheels who's standing in the center of a platform with wheels on it. He always seemed to really freak me out a little bit sometimes because just his look is just so menacing. But I gotta say, Twisted Metal 2 is really great. I mean, if you're looking back at the original franchise and you look back at what was the best, and it would have to be Twisted Metal 2. I mean, nowadays you could probably go ahead and pick up Twisted Metal Black or the other Twisted Metal game that they also have on the PS2. I think they have them on PS3 as well now. Not too sure about the PS4. But those games that they made, the newer versions, they are actually really worth it too. They're really worth it. They're really a lot of fun. And I don't think enough companies or developers make games like this anymore. And they should really look back on these roots and try and come up with a new game in modern day gaming that would be just like this, but yet, you know, modern times. That'd be so awesome. So I hope you guys really like this list. I'm going to actually be working on a history of the Final Fantasy series, and I'm going to be starting research on that. Some of the information I've already come to find out is actually really interesting, and I hope you guys will really enjoy that series, because if there's enough information, it will be stripped into different parts. So I'm going to be working on where they started all the way on to where they are at today. I'm hoping to do that. Now, the game Overboard series is not getting really good traction when it comes to you guys. You guys don't really give a crap about that, so whenever I have fillers that I have to do, I might do one of those here and there, but it just depends. I just don't know yet. Also, the Hidden Gems, I'm still working on that. I really want to get started with collecting on the Super Nintendo, but you know, when it comes to collecting for the Super Nintendo, the prices are pretty much up there. So I have to be careful with that and careful with what I do, because this can be financially consuming, and I'm trying not to be stupid about what I do. Now, don't forget, I do a video every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you have any suggestions, something you want me to talk about, go ahead and tell me in the comments down below. I really appreciate it. And for those of you that make it this far into the video, you guys are the best. Now, as always, remember 22 and stay classy, bros.